Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Guys Who Stare at Stats. I'm Cade Kennedy alongside Connor Gray and Andrew Santangelo, and folks, we have a lot of football to get to. Another exciting week. The conference championship games have been wrapped up. The playoff has been announced for the world of college football, and the NFL, well, they had a pretty crazy week as well. Not too often you see ties anymore, but hey, we got one of those this week as well. As always, if you're watching on Twitch, feel free to give us a follow, twitch.tv/NWTV7. If you're watching on YouTube, hey, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Hit that little notification bell. Give the video a like and leave your comment down below. But now, as always, the most important question of the day. Fellas, how are y'all doing today?
I'm doing very well. Trey Turner's a Philadelphia Philly. Eagles won by 25 points. Couldn't be any better.
Yep, had my first final today early this morning at 8 o'clock, and then pretty much took time to rest, and then I just had a workout.
Well, there you go. Well, Connor, I will say those 8 a.m. finals, not fun whatsoever. You know, I, for one, love waking up and immediately having to use my brain. That's my favorite thing to do. But we've got a little bit more important things to talk about. Not to say education is important, but sometimes it doesn't feel that way, especially when you're having to wake up at 8 a.m. to do it. But the college football weekend, well, it delivered once again, and we've got to start with the number one team in the country doing what they do best, taking care of business. Georgia beating up on LSU. Don't let that 30 points from the Tigers fool you, folks. Georgia had control of this game. It did not matter who LSU had at quarterback. Yes, Doug Nussmeier, he came in, he played well, but at the end of the day, Georgia's offense entered that other level I've been wanting them to see for a while now.
Yeah, after the blocked field goal, full burn back for a touchdown, you kind of already knew how that game was going to eventually turn out. Georgia just was way too much for LSU to handle, and Georgia has once again proven why they're the number one team and the huge favorites to win the national title.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was trying to say in those past games, and everyone was freaking out that Georgia didn't look that good. Georgia looked like, I mean, everyone was getting worried about them. I mean, they're playing with teams during the regular season. Like, they know how good they are. They know all they got to do is scrap out a victory, especially after winning the championship last year. I mean, they know what's going on, and obviously this is the most important game of their season, the championship game, and they just came out here and dominated. I mean, just like the Georgia team can, and now they're going to the playoffs, and we'll see what happens. But like Connor said, I mean, they're the favorites to win, and I mean, we'll get into that here in a little bit. But I mean, there's a reason why they're number one, and they're the most. They're the deepest team probably.
And Georgia, I mean, you look at this. It was 50-30 with 7 minutes left in the game. You thought, okay, LSU's kind of kept it somewhat competitive. But the Dogs' defense, whenever they had to make something, keep in mind, this is a mix of first and second string out there for Georgia. When you get up by a certain amount in a title game, you're just wanting to get your backups experience as well. It's hard to believe you can say that when you're playing at the time a top 15 team that, we're just letting the backups have some fun out there. You know, let them play. But my goodness, what a dominant win for Georgia there that they picked up. Speaking of teams that I thought could have played a little bit better in the first half and then turned it on in the second half, Michigan did that against Purdue. Wolverines getting a 43-22 win over the Boilermakers in a game that, well, it kind of looked like it would follow a certain trend we saw in the morning. Purdue had made it a 1-point game at halftime, but the Boilermakers, you got to be able to score 7 when the other team is. You can't keep kicking field goals, but that's what eventually happened. Michigan able to hold on and then eventually cruise.
Yeah, for this one, it was just like it was kind of like few amount of their games in the regular season, they weren't winning by a whole lot. They did this with Indiana. That stood out for me was that Michigan wasn't really playing their best in the first half, and then they kicked it on another gear and won that game by almost 30. So it's one of those ones where if Michigan can play how they do in the second half, start from beginning to end throughout the game, you could argue that they would be probably as good or even better than Georgia, but you gotta play all half that way. But they got the win they needed. That's really all that matters for them.
Yeah, and again, I mean, Michigan was basically a lock for the playoffs at this point. So your big thing here is get the wing, come out healthy, and I think that's kind of what Michigan did in this game. And again, kind of like I said about Georgia with some of the teams they faced. I mean, you kind of saw it in this game. They came out, struggled a little bit, and then when they had to, just turned it on in the second half and took over. And that's what Michigan. I mean, they're obviously a very dominant team after we saw what they did to Ohio State a few weeks ago. So Michigan, I think their defense too is kind of one of those defenses that they'll give up yardage, but in the end, they're not going to give up the 7, and that's what matters.
Yeah, so Michigan once again, Donovan Edwards, he had a great day. There's a little bit of vying for Blake Corum in the Heisman in the post-game show. This one, Blake Corum, of course, not one of the 4 finalists for the Heisman that was announced yesterday, but I did find it interesting. I mean, this game really did have everything. J.J. McCarthy, he played well. We got that weird, awkward close-up of Harbaugh. That's now a meme that we're going to see for the next month. We got a AOC, Aiden O'Connell, not the other AOC. This is a football channel. O'Connell, I mean, he played pretty well. He really did. I mean, 32 for 47, 366 yards. Yes, he had 2 interceptions, but for a team like Purdue, not to, no offense to the Boilermakers here, but for a quarterback from the Big Ten West this year to at least get some points on the board and make it a game with the Wolverines was just good enough for them, I would say. But the next one to get to, the big one that a lot of people saw in the morning, the only, and I mean, unless you're a fan of the MAC, the only game that was really on in the morning, K-State and TCU down to the wire in a battle of purples. Kansas State gets the job done.
Yep. I remember saying, or I know earlier in the year I said K-State was the dark horse team to go to the Big 12 title game. Well, they ended up doing that, but But Andrew was the only one who was confident enough in them to pretty much win that one, though we didn't doubt they could win. We just didn't think they would. So, obviously, this one, K-State was looking like the better team throughout the middle part of the game, but as soon as the fourth quarter hit, TCU turned it up a gear, and Duggan just he's got that dog in him. That's all you can really say about it, is that he's got that dog in him. He was able to help his team get the tie this one up, and what can you say about Max Duggan, just how well he played? But obviously Deuce Vaughn and Will Howard and pretty much that entire K-State team just did what they could, did everything they could, and obviously showed they were able to play better in these big-time games, especially with their head coach. So hats off to them, but I'm glad TCU is still in the playoff.
Yeah, the better team won this game. I truly believe that. They should have beat them twice, and they should have knocked TCU out of the playoffs if they would have held on and beat them twice. But, no, I think the big here is Dykes. I mean, he's going to be kicking himself. I mean, I don't know how you don't do a QB sneak in overtime. I mean, that ball's inside the 1-yard line for 2 plays, and you're giving the ball to the back 5, 6 yards, whatever you want to call it, behind the line of scrimmage at that point. So now you're having the back have to make up 5 yards there to get inside the end zone, where instead of just I get trying the running play on 3rd down, but then once that doesn't work, QB sneak absolutely on the 4th down. So I don't know how he's going to be kicking himself about that. Luckily, like you said, Connor, they get into the playoffs, so he's not going to be kicking himself too much because he didn't cost him a playoff spot, but he could have there, and that obviously would have been a lot bigger there. But you got to credit TCU's fight and coming back in this game as well, and sending it to overtime in the first place, because at first it didn't even seem like they were going to do that. But again, I put this one a little bit on coaching there in overtime.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting one. It looked like Kansas State, like to your point, Andrew, they did look like the better team. This looked like the K-State team that remembered what happened and said, okay, we know we're the better team. We knew we were the better team in Fort Worth. We're not going to let this happen again. But with the way Max Duggan, I mean, talking about a guy that looked like he was having trouble just standing up straight in the 4th quarter, able to just run after run after run, over 100 yards rushing for Duggan. The first quarterback in a conference championship game since Deshaun Watson in 2015 to throw for 250 and run for 100. Just play after play after play. Just a true warrior on the field, I would say, for Max.
I mean, like you said, Cade, he struggled standing. He took a lot of shots. He was exhausted, and he was bleeding, like several.
Oh yeah,
from his hand to his up to his elbow, completely bleeding all over the place. He gave everything he had. That obviously many would probably vie him like for that performance to win the Heisman, though that's up to the voters to decide on that one. But obviously, there's only so much you can do. At the end, K-State was the better team, and rightly deserved get the Big 12 title.
Yeah, at the end of the day, K-State does what they do best. They see a top 3 team, they play spoiler, they obliterate competition. Even though this was one of those, of course, they went to overtime, but still, K-State, they did it again. Snyder is, smiling down upon them from wherever he is right now. But the next one to get to, the real upset, the Friday night, just absolute Utah party, 47-24. And, man, I don't know who's happier about this game. Utah fans, Ohio State fans, Oklahoma fans, or Notre Dame fans. Everybody was rejoicing except for, USC themselves. 47-24. Caleb Williams, he was playing great in the first quarter, but just taking shot after shot. Utah was able to seize momentum on a fourth down failure by the Trojans. And from that point, you see it here on the drive charts, just Utah taking over after that point.
Yep. Obviously, starting out the game, Caleb Williams and company were just shredding through Utah like it was nothing. And then just overtime, Utah just took over and obviously didn't help Caleb. Just got hurt and wasn't really feeling himself throughout the rest of the game. And just Utah just showed how good they can be. If they would performed a lot like this throughout pretty much the entire season, you could probably be looking at them in the number 4 spot instead of with USC. But obviously Utah plays spoiler, and obviously Ohio State's very, very happy because they managed to get into the postseason. OU fans are just happy to see Lincoln lose.
Yeah, sports are a game of adjustments, and that's what Utah did. After a very bad start, slow start, they adjusted. They made the fixes they had to, obviously going into halftime. They made the more important adjustments there as well after they tied it right before the break. And, again, credit to Caleb Williams, though. Putting out a show there and even battling through all those injuries. He barely could walk. He barely could get up on after some of those hits. He was basically playing on one leg, it looked like, at some point. So, credit to Williams there for battling through that. And, I was pulling for him to find a way to win that game with how much he was taking a beating.
Williams still did have a good performance. 28 for 41, 363, 3 TDs.
Yeah.
Cam Rising, he took some licks as well. 22 for 34, 310, 3 TDs. USC's defense, though, I want to illustrate this point here about Alex Grinch defense is still not being able to cover tight ends and other people on the field. Nearly 25 missed tackles for the Trojans in this game, the most they had all season by far. It's just something about, I don't know what it is for USC, that a poor tackling form, just taking some weird angles. Well, it looked like watching Oklahoma's defense out there. It looked like what we saw the last few years, but my goodness, just what a game. What a celebration for Utah, able to get back to the Rose Bowl, another season for them where they get to do that. And Lincoln Riley still not able to beat Utah. He can beat everyone else, but he's found his new kryptonite, I guess.
It's always one team.
There's always one team, and they have the same problem. They're going to hit you in the mouth, and USC hasn't figured that one out yet. But moving on to the ACC title game, yes, the ACC did have a title game. Yes, it didn't have any playoff notifications, but it did happen. And Clemson, my goodness, they did what their fan base has been calling on all year. Dabo Swinney finally benching DJ Uyunglele. Cade Klubnik comes in, and he goes 20 for 24, 279, and a TD. Drake May, he was a potential Heisman hopeful. North Carolina, we're talking 2-3 weeks ago, they had a possibility of, hey, look, we've got this high-powered offense, but the Tar Heels suffering loss after loss, and Drake May, a few turnovers. Tar Heels can never fully get going. They could get down the field. They can never really seem to capitalize. Clemson, a 39-10 win to go to the Orange Bowl and play Tennessee in the very Orange Bowl.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where a lot of things just went wrong for North Carolina, but also Clemson's just offense and their defense just, for the most part, just taking control of the game. Obviously, the right decision was to bench DJ for Klubnik, was the right decision, and North Carolina just after going 9-1, they just fell off a cliff.
Yeah, turnovers kill you, and that's what happened to North Carolina here. After a good start to the quarter and you get that first score, it kind of turned quickly after that. And credit to Clemson for finding a way to get under rhythm, getting things going, and they never looked back.
Absolutely. It was one of those games where you had to make a few changes. You got just plays all over the field, whether it be offense, defense, or even special teams for the Tigers. they're able to take care of business, and now DJ Uyunglele is in the transfer portal. So if that makes you feel about that situation, that if you want to know what was going on, now you know. Klubnik's your guy. And the next one, the final college football game we're going to talk about, not in the bounce house like it has been the past few years, not even in Nippert. No Cincy in this game. UCF on the road going to, well, your new potential conference overlords, it's Tulane. Green Wave getting a 45-28 win over the Knights. Tulane punching in a ticket to the Cotton Bowl where they'll play USC in a game that, well, folks, very odd game. Just to set the scene for this, UCF has been kind of using a two-quarterback system throughout the year, mainly with their starter at the original starter, John Rice Plumlee. He had been dealing with some injuries, not playing as well. Mikey Keene comes in late in the season, goes 4-0 as the starting quarterback. He sits out for this game. He tells coaches he's not going to play. He wants to keep his redshirt season and not have this count against him. UCF goes out there, and sure enough, Plumlee gets hurt. UCF goes down to a third-string quarterback. Tulane able to jump all over him. As you see here, Tulane up at 1 point, 24-7 early in the third quarter. Plumlee re-enters the game, able to drive down the field a few times, turns this into a shootout. It gets all the way down to 3. Tulane busts off a few big plays, and the Green Wave hold on. The next day, Mikey Keene enters the transfer portal, and all sorts of chaos starting to break out now. But what a win for Tulane here, 11-2, the best season since going 12-0 in 98. What a turnaround by Willie Fritz. 2 wins last year, 11 wins this year, only the 6th time that has ever happened in college football.
You know, a great game there by Tulane, overcoming a lot of different things too. I mean, they had the 3 turnovers in the game, still find a way to win pretty big in this game. I've nearly 700 yards. So, I mean, incredible season for them, incredible turnaround. I don't think anybody expected this, and all it takes is one win to jumpstart you, and I think that's what the win over Kansas State really did early on in the year. I mean, I think that builds a ton of confidence going forward, and then you jump into conference play, and they kind of run the table from there. So, a lot of credit to them, and hopefully things are figured out over there at UCF. But, no, I mean, Green Wave got the job done. They could have let it slip away as it got closer there, but in the end, they made the adjustments there late in the fourth quarter and took over again.
Yeah, obviously this will obviously not the send off from the American that UCF wanted, since they'll be in the Big 12 next season. But Tulane, obviously, now they're pretty much the team to beat unless things happen next season. But obviously, congrats to Tulane. They have much well deserved win. Obviously, going to a New Year's Six Bowl, so that's obviously a big thing for them.
Yeah, first time they've been in a major bowl since I believe 1946. So, my goodness, it's been a long time for Tulane. They've been waiting for this for a long time, getting to storm the field, celebrate. Nobody was going to stop them. What a big win for the Green Wave. But now it is time to move on to the NFL. And, folks, we had a lot of interesting things going on in Week 13. We had everything. We had dramatic comebacks. We had field goals that got missed. And teams really need to consider that your kicker can't make a 63-yard field goal. What are you doing? But, my goodness, we got to start with the Bills and the Patriots Thursday night. Buffalo just kind of calmly winning this game. Not a whole lot going on in the second half. Bills just walking to a 24-10 win.
Yeah, I mean, this is who Buffalo is. Dominant on defense, dominant on offense. Arguably the best team in the AFC. And I mean, again, arguably the best quarterback in the NFL. And they got the job done. Sean McDermott's been a good coach as well. And Bills needed this one, give them a little more breathing room in the division, and credit to them for going out, getting the job done on the road after a big second quarter there, and then pretty much just taking control after that and not letting them Patriots back in it after halftime.
Yeah, can't really say much on that. Buffalo just did what they needed to do, and obviously Josh Allen having a game where he hasn't at least thrown an interception. So obviously good for him, and that was much needed, and obviously wasn't in any doubt they were going to beat the Bills. I mean, beat the Patriots. They beat themselves.
Yeah, so the Bills did not beat the Bills. That's usually a recipe to success.
Yeah, but can't really say much else about that.
Yeah, I mean, this is, to your point, Andrew, this is a typical Buffalo game. This is what they're going to come in here and do. If their defense can get going, which 9 times out of 10 they will, You don't need your offense to score every time. You just need to do enough to win the game. And anytime you can beat a division rival by double digits, that's always a good sign.
Especially in their house.
Especially. And speaking of teams getting road wins, Pittsburgh does the same thing. They go to Atlanta and get a 19-16 win. This one was back and forth for most of the game. Neither side really could establish dominance over the other. Steelers had a possibility to turn this game into a blowout. They're up 13-3, just needing another stop. Couldn't do it. Falcons make it back to a one-possession game, and we pretty much ping-ponged back and forth for a while. Neither side could break away. But at the end of the day, the Steelers' defense stepped up when they absolutely had to, and Pittsburgh's 5-7. The door is slightly cracked open for that final spot. And if you're Atlanta, you fall to 5-8, and that NFC South is starting to slip away.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, obviously, Atlanta's already been a surprise team. I'd really like to see what they could do if they're able to stay healthy. You lose Cordell Patterson for a lot of the year, and then he finally comes back, and then you lose Kyle Pitts, your biggest weapon in the passing game. So it's on top of it not supposed to being a big year for Atlanta. It's a shame what they've had to go through because with the 5 wins already, I would have liked to see what they would do healthy. And credit to their defense for keeping them in this game. I mean, both defenses in the beginning of this game just trading field goals. So, I mean, in the end, Mike Tomlin gets the job done with his Pittsburgh group. And, I mean, we'll see. He needs 4 more wins now to get that 500 record because he can't be 8-8. So, he needs 4 to get to that 9 mark.
Technically, Technically, he could go 8-8-1, Andrew.
That's true.
He could do that.
But what does a tie count as towards your winning percentage? Does that keep you at 500 or does that drop you below? That's the question.
I think it would keep you at 500. That 8-8-1, I think you'd be 500.
I honestly don't know because
I don't know either.
It's a winning percentage, so you'd end up you'd not win over half your games. You'd win 8 out of your 17. So I don't know how that.
But you only lost 8 out of your 17. So.
Well, no, but it's a winning percentage.
I know.
Yeah,
it's
so
one of those weird.
Win less. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe they'll go 8-8-1, and someone can go 8-8-1, and we could find out. We can put this to rest.
But Falcons, obviously, them being hurt, dealing with all kinds of injuries they're dealing with, especially like you said, not having Kyle Pitts really hurt a lot of the passing game. I think if they had Kyle Pitts for this one, I think Atlanta probably would win this one. But this is not how it turned out, and congrats to Steelers for getting it.
Yeah, so you got to play through injuries, but when you have your tight end that can just absolutely change the game, it's always hard to adapt to that. Steelers getting the big win to stay alive, and teams staying alive, that's what the Packers are trying to do. This was a brutal game for Packers fans in the first half. You get down 16-3 at one point. Bears fans are getting into it. They think they finally got Rodgers pinned and can finally beat him at Soldier Field. It's not the case. Green Bay able to roll back late and just take over in the fourth quarter, down 9, and they end up winning it by 9. Just what a turnaround, 18-point swing in the fourth quarter. Packers able to still get a win, and Aaron Rodgers still owns the city of Chicago.
He does. He owns the Chicago Bears. And the surprising thing out of this game is they used A.J. Dillon a lot more than Aaron Jones, and he ended up being the more featured back. So a little bit of a change there from the Packers, which kind of surprised me. But, I mean, obviously they were struggling beforehand before they made the switch, so credit to them for making that switch. And then just complete takeover there in the fourth quarter, not even giving Chicago much of a chance after that. So a lot of credit to Green Bay for battling on the road, getting the job done, and keeping their season alive as of now.
Yeah, seeing some of this game, I was like, oh my god! I was like, oh my goodness! I can't believe the Bears were gonna finally beat Aaron Rodgers, and then that obviously second half happened, and Green Bay showed, and Aaron Rodgers like we still own you, so good for Green Bay to at least try to in some way keep a chance alive, but not real. You gotta hope a lot of things fall into your lap for it to happen.
I mean, one team they certainly would like to see in front of them take a few losses is Detroit. That did not happen. The Lions dominating 40-14 over Jacksonville. Lions are 5-7. They're still second in the NFC North. The Lions will not go away this year. That's another fun storyline, kind of a feel-good team. If you want someone to root for, Jared Goff, 31 for 41, 340 and 2 TDs. Just absolute, look at that yardage difference. 437 to 266. Lions hold on to the ball for nearly 37 minutes. Just absolute control of the game for Detroit. And this is something you've been waiting for a long time to see if you're a Lions fan.
especially defense actually not giving up more than 20-plus points. They actually managed to keep Jacksonville down to 14, and Jared Goff and company just went off on the Jaguars. Like you said, Cade, this is something that Detroit fans have been wanting to see. Obviously, I'm very happy for them. It's nice to see Detroit actually having a solid football team, trying to at least try to win. Now, it's been a while since they've tried to do any of that, but really, all you can say is good job, Detroit, and keep it on the fight.
Credit to the Lions offense for getting the job done. And then taking advantage of a struggling Jaguars offense there on the defensive side. We've seen time to time the offense gets the job done, the defense lets the team back in it and ends up losing in the end. But they're able to get the job done here. And a big thing here, I mean, you got the two running back system with Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift, both of them getting in the end zone once again. So Lions just finding ways to win here. We'll see what they're able to do down the stretch in this division.
It's going to be a fun race to the end here, kind of more than usual with some of the teams that were used to being really good down in that middle to below average pile at times this year. It's going to be an exciting playoff race.
Yeah, no question about it, especially when the two of the final teams right now in the wild card are in the same division, so they'll have to beat each other up a little bit, and same with the other two in that division being more toward the top of the conference record-wise. So they'll have a chance to lose there. So the battle for those last two wild card spots is going to be pretty intense there in the NFC.
Yeah, and speaking of the NFC, the Vikings, one of the main representatives, boy, they had their hands full with the Jets. Mike White, he's that dude, apparently. He can keep them in games, even though he threw 2 interceptions, still threw for 369.
I would argue one of them was not his fault.
Yeah, probably not. But the Jets had an interesting situation here where they had to go for it twice to try to get the touchdown to get the 1-point lead late in the game. Obviously, hindsight is 20/20, but you could have kicked the field goal both times and got a 28-27 win if they were both good. It's one of those things that, yes, it would have looked stupid the first time you would have went for it. Why are you kicking a field goal to make it a 3-point game with a few minutes left? But that's one of those interesting decisions. Would you go back and do that knowing you're a guaranteed 3 and out, knowing that you have confidence in your defense? I'll be interested to see if the Jets have another situation, what Robert Saleh decides to do.
Yeah, it's always a tough spot, especially late in the game like that. You don't know if you're going to get the ball back. Your defense struggled big time there in the first half, but with the way they were playing in the second half, and I can't remember the timeout situation for the Jets. I believe they had all their timeouts.
They did.
I think I'm in favor for taking the points and seeing what you got defensively. I mean, again, it's not like you're going out facing a Tom Brady, and I get Dalvin Cook's obviously very good, but you're not going out facing a Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, top tier quarterback in the league. And I do think Kirk Cousins is better than people give him credit for. But the way your defense made the adjustments in the second half and it was holding the Vikings pretty much scoreless that half for a long time, I would have rolled the dice there and see what you got. But, hey, like you said, Cade, hindsight's 20/20, and you can't see the future there in the game, or else a lot of people would be doing other things differently. But, no, credit for the Jets for battling back to begin with after going down big in this game. But in the end, the Vikings hold on to that 2 spot in the NFC.
Yeah, the whole hindsight is 20/20 stuff. It's like, personally, for me, I still probably would have gone for it if just in that situation. So I'm not going to throw as much. We can't really blame them for trying to go for it, but obviously pretty much Minnesota just did what they needed to do, is hold on to a win, continue to keep only 2 losses on the season, and Jets still has their way to continue battling. So I think as long as White continues to perform well, and hopefully the turnover issue doesn't become more of a problem, they'll be fine. Though, like I said, one of the interceptions wasn't really his fault, but the other one was. So
yeah, it'll be an adventure in the AFC East when you have 4 good teams over there. It can be an absolute nightmare to deal with. But the next one, ladies and gentlemen, we did it. We had a tie. We did it, 20-20. Yeah, the worst thing in sports. You mean the greatest thing in sports? Everybody loses. It is funny. Do I wish we had ties? No. But while we do have them, I'm going to laugh every time we get one and cherish them dearly, because this is a game where if the Commanders jump out to a 10-0 lead, they try to get control early. Giants rally back. It's 13-13 at halftime. Each side scores a touchdown, and we go to overtime, and Graham Gano misses a 58-yard field goal to win the game. He shorted it, was not able to even get it to the goalpost itself, and that's kind of a fitting end for this game, though, with both of these teams playing some good at times football, bad at times football. It was all around one of the games of all time.
Yeah, an odd game. Again, Washington jumps out big. Giants battle back, tied up before the half. Washington starts the second half with the ball. I can't remember who it was, but he fumbles it early, I think. Still in Giants territory, or in Washington's territory, excuse me. And Giants take over, get the job done quickly, score, and that was all the Giants could do from that point on. And if it makes you wonder, if you don't have that fumble, do the Giants even score in the second half? Are they able to have a good drive? Because they only had to go 20 yards there to start the half and get that touchdown. So, well, we've been saying all year, Washington's defense has been playing really good. We'll see what they get out of Heineke. I know we got in a little bit of a debate with that last week. But, I mean, I think both these quarterbacks showed you why, in my opinion, they're not going to be Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. And again, I think these two teams have been built on defense this season and running game, and that's what you saw in this game. And then when it came down to it, the Giants' special teams couldn't get it done.
Yeah, I mean, it was just one of those, you look at it, and this is one of those that's just painful to talk about. Just watching every single time, it's like, okay, one of these two teams has to do something. I don't know what, but they're going to do something, and then they just punt, just back and forth. Then eventually, like you said, Andrew, the short 20-yard drive, my goodness, that was the only reason that this could be even close. But, my goodness, just what a absolute battle.
Yeah.
Only way that this could be close enough to go to overtime and to fix that phrase there.
Yeah, no question about it. And to have Washington where they're at, not scoring the entire second half, and then getting that touchdown right after the 2-minute warning. I mean, just a nice battle there from Washington.
Yeah, well, I know you'll be happy with this next game. The Titans taking on the Eagles. Philadelphia getting a 35-10 win. Connor's now out of it. He had to go actually do a job, so he's not going to be here the rest of the show. You know, as long as he didn't leave right before the Chiefs game, because then we could have been like, hey, what do you mean? We got one more to stay for. But my goodness, Eagles getting a 35-10 win. Jalen Hurts putting on a clinic, 29 for 39, 380 through the air, and 3 TDs.
Yeah, Cade, I think we talked about it a little bit when you stopped by my office yesterday. I mean, the most impressive thing for me here from Hurts is the week before he wins the game with 150-plus rushing yards, a couple touchdowns, helps the team get a couple touchdowns that way, and the Eagles win that game. Then you turn around a week later, he gets held to 12 rushing yards, and he has 380 passing yards and 3 passing touchdowns. So, to me, I mean, that's just an incredible feat there for a quarterback. And to have that balance, it makes defenses have trouble guarding you, and that's what you saw in this game. Is I don't think the Titans really knew where to go with it. Again, the Eagles ran for 300-plus yards as a team the week before, and then they come back and barely run the ball in this game. So, and you know what? It was the revenge game for A.J. Brown against Tennessee, and he sure did that to Tennessee. And I don't know. Everyone can make their speculations, but that probably had something a little bit to do with, I don't know if you saw Tennessee fired their GM today.
Yep.
So it's kind of weird that it happens right after the Eagles-Titans game. So I'm sure that had something to do with it a little bit. But, no, I mean, yeah, I couldn't have asked for anything more in this game because you guys heard me pick the game last Thursday, I think, when we did our show. I picked the Titans against the spread and the Eagles to win the game. So to see this kind of win was surprising to me.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those Philadelphia. You kind of needed this win. Just another one of those, okay, we are who we thought we are, just checking. Make sure that we are indeed an 11-1 football team and know what we're doing here. They understood the assignment. A.J. Brown, to your point, revenge game there, 8 catches for 118 and 2 TDs. Just looking at the yardage here, 453 to 209 in favor of the Eagles. Defense was absolutely dominant. In a game where, I mean, Sanders only has 10 carries for 24 yards, so didn't need to run the ball because Jalen Hurts was able to do it all with his arm.
Yeah, and to your point, this team did need it. They needed a confidence game back. I mean, I can't remember the order of games, but I believe you lose to Washington, then you win the 1-point game against Indianapolis and barely beat Green Bay. And those are 3 not great teams. So to your point, Cade, yeah, you did need that confidence builder in this game, especially against a team with a winning record and winning their division. So this is a huge – and – You mentioned the yardage. I don't know. That's surprising to me, holding a team to just over 200 yards without any turnovers. I mean, they're getting full-on possessions there, and they're not. That means they're just not moving the ball at all.
Yeah, I mean, that just is suffocating defense right there. And speaking of suffocating defense, that's what happened in this game. Denver taking on Baltimore, neither team over 300 yards. Tyler Huntley having to come into the game for Ravens, an injury to Lamar Jackson. And Huntley, I mean, to his credit, he did pretty well. 27 for 32, 187. Did throw an interception that did set up a Denver field goal. Otherwise, the Broncos probably only have 6 on the day. But Brandon McManus had a chance to win. Russell Wilson put the Broncos in a position to win a game and just could not execute, missing the 63-yarder. That one was also short. And the Ravens hold on to a 10-9 win in probably the worst game of the week. I don't know. It was one of those that it was interesting. I'll say that.
Yeah, it depends what you credit to the worst game. People will look at this and say, 1-point game. It was a great game. Lions, Jaguars, 40-14. That's got to be the worst game. So it just depends what you're looking for there.
Yeah.
But, no, I mean, does this game not sum up the Broncos season?
It does.
You're winning the whole game. You have a backup quarterback on the other side struggling all game. And then, boom, last minute of the game, you lose to the backup quarterback. Like, to me, this just summed up Denver's season here in a bad way, obviously.
To me, it also kind of sums up Baltimore's season as well. Everything goes wrong the first 3 quarters of the game. You catch 1 or 2 breaks in the fourth quarter, and you're able to rally back and take it at the end. And, hey, yeah, we're 8-4, and just like nothing ever happened.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, credit to ball. I mean, we talk about defenses. Both these teams built on defense and keep them in games. And when you got a defense that keeps you in the game, all it takes is 1 strike to win, and that's what you get.
Absolutely. Moving on to the next one. Deshaun Watson makes his return to Houston, and this went about kind of how he thought it would. The Texans playing well in the first half. They had a 5-0 lead at one point. And, Andrew, we've talked about it before. The team that scores the safety usually does not win the game.
There you go.
That's what happens here. 27-14. Cleveland takes care of business in a game where, I mean, Cleveland had a lot of points handed to them. I mean, you had a 4-yard fumble return for a touchdown, a 16-yard pick six, Donovan Peoples-Jones on a 76-yard punt return. A lot of non-offensive scores for the Browns, but if you're Cleveland, of course, you'll take any win to get 5-7, stay in that playoff chase.
Exactly. You want to win, stay in it. And we talked about whether Watson would look rusty. The answer is absolutely he did. He looked absolutely terrible in this game. And obviously, again, he hasn't played in over a year, so it's going to take him a little bit, obviously, to get in a rhythm again. But credit to Cleveland, special teams, their defense, finding ways to put points up in this game and really win this game for Cleveland over Houston and helped Deshaun Watson get a solid return there down in his old team.
Yeah, it was one of those that desperately needed win for both sides. Browns able to come up with the win in Watson's return. The Seahawks and the Rams, the next one here. Geno Smith, well, he had another game where he went off. This one also went about how we thought with Wolford in there. You're not going to get the full Rams offense, not having Stafford, of course, and you could see it hurt him at times in this one. Seattle getting a 27-23 win.
Again, not a pretty win here for Seattle, but a win's a win in the end. You stay in the division race, especially with what happened to San Francisco over the weekend, which, I mean, yeah, you don't wish that on anybody, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. I'll save that for that game, but Geno Smith gets the job done. An incredible game from him and Metcalf. I think Metcalf had 2 touchdowns in this game, and Lockett on the other side. So the wide receiver duo, who everyone thought was kind of going to split up once Wilson. I mean, talk about a fun story team. I mean, when Wilson demands a trade, you think his receivers not necessarily going to go with him, but they demand it. Well, at the time, Metcalf demanded a trade. It looks like the whole team is just going to split up and everything's just a mess. Well, they bring in a guy named Geno Smith who already lost his starting job a couple times, and he comes in and he's got him 7 wins so far in the year, and who knows where they'll finish at the rest of the way. But this is a fun story team that I don't think anyone expected to be here.
Yeah, Seattle has been another one of those fun stories. It really does look like the Seahawks and the Broncos traded places almost when they made that Russell Wilson and Drew Lock trade. Drew Lock, of course, not really seeing any action at all. They went with Geno Smith. They made the right decision. Geno Smith, he had one of those games again. He's not always 100% on the money, but when he is throwing for 380 or a 367 and 3 TDs, the Seahawks are still going to be a hard team to stop.
Yeah, no question about it.
Yeah, it is one of those that truly it doesn't boggle the mind. There's some expectation there, but it's still weird seeing everything Seattle's went through with that 7-5 record by their name. But the next one we're going to get into, obviously, we just teased it a little bit. The Niners taking care of business, but being dealt another huge blow. Jimmy Garoppolo out for the season with his injury there. Brock Purdy coming in relief. 25 for 37, 210, 2 TDs, and a pick for the man who is the last pick in the draft this year. And the Niners, I mean, it kind of proves their strategy, though. You can play anyone at quarterback for San Francisco as long as they play a good enough game. You can just ride your defense, and, well, they showed up forcing 4 Miami turnovers and holding an explosive Dolphins offense to 17 points.
Yeah, that's a surprising number. 4 turnovers for the Dolphins, an offense that's been phenomenal all year. And to me, I know it's tough to win on the road and everything, but to me, this is a bad loss for Miami. You get down to the third-string quarterback technically for San Francisco, a guy that's never played an NFL snap before, and like you said, Cade, he's the last pick of the NFL draft. And you're not even within striking distance in this game throughout. So we'll see how Miami bounces back. I don't think it's panic mode or anything like that, which you'll probably hear from some fans. But, no, I mean, credit to San Francisco's defense getting the job done here. And how about that? Your last pick of the NFL draft, and now I guess a Super Bowl contender for a lot of people is in the hands of that guy that went last. Is Jimmy Garoppolo broke his foot, so I mean, I guess I can't confirm he's out for season, but most likely out for season if you break your foot this late in the year. So we'll see what happens, but yeah, how about that? What a ride of a year for that guy. I mean, again, go from the last pick of the draft to you're the head guy here for this team.
Yeah, I was like Brock Purdy. I don't think he expected to be the guy this year. You're just hoping, hey, maybe I might get to play in one game this season. Oh, well, you're in charge of an 8-4 team, and you've got to right the ship the final 5 games of the season now. And Christian McCaffrey, he had a great game. 17 carries for 66 yards and 8 catches for 80 yards and a TD. The Niners have their groove back, I would say.
Yeah, and the last thing on that for Brock is he's got weapons. He's got guys that are going to make his life easier. He's got Deebo Samuel. He's got Christian McCaffrey, as you just mentioned. And he's got a solid offensive line and a great defense. So he's not going to have to go out and put up a touchdown every time down the field, even if he's able to just go get 3 points and let your defense hold whoever they're facing. And I think that's going to be the recipe for a win, and it's going to make his life a little easier here as he tries to find his way in the NFL.
Absolutely. You always want to have help, and well, San Francisco has a lot of help. Speaking of a team that also has a lot of help, Cincinnati, 27-24 over Kansas City. The Bengals are now back to being, well, one game out of that one spot in the AFC. Of course, Buffalo also 9-3 with Kansas City. Tiebreaker goes to Buffalo. Joe Burrow had himself a day. 25 for 31, 286, 2 TDs. Mahomes having one of his worst games of the season, 16 for 27. This Bengals defense able to absolutely just get critical stops when they needed to. It all comes down to a field goal. Butker with the miss at the end. So Cincinnati holding on.
Yeah, I think this is what people talk about coming in the years. How good will this Chiefs defense be? That's going to be their biggest weakness, obviously. They lost a couple pieces, and I think you saw it in this game when the Chiefs offense broke down for a couple possessions and the defense wasn't able to hold on. And the Bengals offense struck at the right time, outscoring them 10-0 in the fourth quarter. Really made the difference. And we picked this game, Cade. We picked the Bengals to win this game. And, again, it was obviously a tough road game for Kansas City. Cincinnati's a good team, a team that – it's funny where they're at now from where they were in the beginning of the year when we saw how much they were struggling. So a lot of credit for them for refining their season here, and a huge win for them.
I mean, absolutely. Big game for the Bengals. And once again, third week in a row, Samaje Perine out of nowhere, just turning into the running back for Cincinnati. 21 carries for 106 yards. Had the big highlight stiff arm there that everybody's been talking about. The Bengals are back. They're, like you said, Andrew, they've come a long way from the first few weeks of the season. But the next game to talk about, another team that continues to improve every single week, the Raiders. Getting another win, 27-20 over the Chargers. We talked about it in the picks. Josh Jacobs. That's all you need to know. Josh Jacobs, 26 carries, 144, another rushing TD. absolutely just crushing it. Another week of great performance by him. Vegas has an opportunity now. They're slowly climbing that ladder back up. It's not too late for Vegas to have an opportunity here.
No, and that's what's fun about this season. I mean, we talk about how close we thought this division would be, and we thought the records would be a little better, but it's time when these teams are starting to beat each other up there inside the division, and the Raiders are getting hot at the right time, and we'll see if they're able to sneak into a final wild card spot. But, I mean, we expect a better all year from them, and we'll see if it's a little too late, but if you want to look ahead into next season, they're finding a nice spot here with the new head coach and everything, Josh McDaniels. So I like where the Raiders are headed, and like you said, this is the recipe. Give the ball to Jacobs for 100-plus yards and throw the ball to Adams for 100-plus yards, and we'll win.
Yeah, you got three guys on the field you really need to pay attention to: Derek Carr, Josh Jacobs, and Devontae Adams. All three of them do what they're supposed to do. They're kind of like the Niners. They have that almost formula built into, okay, we know they're going to do these three things, but they do it so well that it's so hard to stop. The next one here, Sunday night, fun night for 3 quarters, and then Dallas absolutely unloading. A 33-point fourth quarter gives the Cowboys a 54-19 win over the Colts in a game where Indy had 5 turnovers, and most of them coming in that quarter. Just absolutely disaster. To not only to add on to what has been happening this season, Colts are now 4-8-1, and just what can you say about Indianapolis at this point? Everything's gone wrong for them. Had an opportunity to maybe get one of those big upset wins and try to find some momentum there, but Dallas able to just shut the door. Cowboys defense doing what they've been able to do all year.
Yeah, maybe Matt Ryan wasn't the answer for Indianapolis this offseason.
Maybe.
Is that what we're getting at?
Maybe.
But no, it's kind of funny. I was talking to you about this yesterday, so I was expecting this to be a lopsided game a little bit. So
there you go.
I went and
got it.
I went and saw Violent Night at the movies, and then I got out of it. Got home, put the game on, and see, it's a close game. It's 13-21. Colts go down the field, score, and make it a one-possession game, fail to get the 2-point conversion. So now they're down 2 points heading into the fourth quarter, and then all of a sudden, blink of an eye, it's a 30-point game. And here's the funny part, too, is I read the Cowboys scored 33 points in the fourth quarter. I think that's more or like within 1 or 2 points of what Denver scored in the last 3 games combined.
Yeah. It's absolutely brutal. I know this was also a team record for most points scored. I believe at least the fourth quarter, might be any quarter in Cowboys history. And I mean, it was quick. It goes from you look at the scoring summary here. 21-19 late third. Okay, 28-19 Dallas scores. Oh, Malik Hooker runs a fumble back 38 yards. Oh, 4 minutes later, nope, now it's 40, 47, 50. It just kept rolling and rolling and rolling. And if you're the Cowboys, I'm sure that was a refreshing fourth quarter. I'm sure that was therapeutic after how the rest of the game had gone up to that point. But huge win for Dallas, able to stay 9-3 on the season and still fighting. They're still trying to take that East away. They're going to have a lot of ground they need to make up, though.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Obviously, they'll get one more game with the Eagles Christmas Eve, and then you got to get one other game outside that. So we'll see if they're able to do that.
We will see for sure. Final game, Monday Night Madness once again. It looked like the Saints had the Buccaneers pinned. All they had to do was stop Tom Brady. And, well, that's still hard to do with all the weapons he has with the Buccaneers. 3 minutes left in the game. Goes from 16-3 to 16-10. 18 seconds later, a quick 3-and-out for New Orleans. And Tampa Bay scoring in the final seconds of the game. Rashad White getting the 6-yard pass from Brady, and the Buccaneers get a 17-16 win. And that might wrap it up for New Orleans on their opportunity to win the NFC South this year.
It's crazy what how bad Brady and company struggle against the Saints. Like, I know they end up winning the game, but like just the struggles all
the
game.
idea that it keeps happening.
Yeah. Well, and then I don't know if you saw this. It's kind of crazy because the Saints would have won this game. They'd have been within like a half game or tied for the division lead, I think, because they haven't had their bye week yet or whatever. But yeah, because it was that last touchdown pass went from the Saints having like the 16th, 17th pick as a division lead to having the 5th pick. Like that's what that. Like, it's crazy because the division winners obviously make the playoffs. They re-jump all the teams that they're worse than anyway. But I mean, what a comeback there for Tampa Bay. I mean, with 3 minutes to go, you're down by 2 scores, and you somehow win this game. I mean, that's Tom Brady for you, I guess.
Absolutely. It's one of those that just you could still see, even though he's 45, even though he's way past his prime, he's still able to go down and provide some clutch drives. Another huge comeback for him. I mean, what else does he need to prove? He's done everything. It's one of those where you're just trying to keep Tampa Bay right the ship, so to speak. And it looks like that's finally getting that way. This was that momentum you needed. We'll see if Tampa Bay can build on it next week. We'll, of course, have our prediction show sometime Thursday. I don't know when. It might be a little bit later than usual. Might be earlier. I have no idea. But, Andrew, as we look back now at the NFL, college football, nearly every crazy thing that happened this week, I mean, a whole lot of just wild games. Any other final thoughts to take away from the week?
No, not really. And these sport. I mean, obviously, I guess a quick run through with MLB winter meetings going on. You had some big signings. Jacob deGrom's heading to the Rangers. Phillies get Trey Turner. You're not gonna like this one. Cubs signed Cody Bellinger while we were on the show. So there's the biggest breaking news. We'll see if the former MVP can get back to where he's at. And going through there. So Aaron Judge was rumored to go to the Giants for a few minutes today. We'll see if that goes through by the end of the night. But no, MLB winter meetings are in full swing. Josh Bell goes to the Guardians today, so they get a big move there after he got traded to the San Diego Padres in the offseason. So it's pretty big around the MLB free agency right now. So it's fun times too all around there.
Yeah, it'll always be fun to see. Anytime you get a free agency period, something crazy is going to happen. I mean, every sport, it doesn't matter which one. We've already seen that with Trey Turner and the mega deal for the Phillies, Verlander going to the Mets. I mean, if the Mets didn't need to make the NL East even more crazier than it already is, let's give them another good arm.
Yeah, we lose Jacob deGrom. Let's just go sign the AL Cy Young winner last year.
There you go. Hey, no big deal. They got the money to do it. $86 million for 2 years. What a time to be alive in baseball. I mean, I wish I got paid $86 million to throw a ball. But then again, I also can't throw it nearly 90-something miles an hour either. But
the better yet, how this Aaron Judge turned down the Yankees contract of like a little over $300 million. Imagine being able to go up to a guy and be like, you know what? I don't want that $300 million.
I want $300 million.
I'm going to go get $300 more million. So.
Yeah, my goodness. But as always, thank you for tuning in tonight. I know a bit of a shorter show. But, hey, sometimes that is okay. If you enjoyed what you heard, once again, if you're watching on Twitch, feel free to give us a follow or follow us going to twitch.tv/NWTV7. And if you're on YouTube, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, leave a comment down below. Any thoughts you have about the week, anything to get excited for next week. Always an interesting time in sports. Never a dull moment, but for Connor Gray, who already hightailed it out of here, he's got other stuff he needs to do tonight. For Andrew Santangelo, I'm Cade Kennedy. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. And until next time, have a good one, everybody.